Welcome back to the Better Days podcast. This is the Week 5 predictions for college football, and we'll be getting started. So, looking at this Friday night slate, we got Florida State at Virginia. Now, normally in these kind of games, Friday nights are pretty tricky because it's a 1 day less of preparation for the road team. Typically, we do see a lot of upsets here. Even though Florida State was very questionable last year, and I do mean they were horrible, I still think that this team has a different just confidence about them, and they know that Miami game could definitely give them control of the ACC. So I do feel like they're going to at the very least follow through and win this game, even if it gets tough. I think Florida State will get this. I think Virginia's defense just isn't as good, and if Florida State sticks to who they are, they'll be able to win easily. But if they start doing just random plays or trying to trick Virginia when they need to just be more physical, that could definitely be a pretty big difference in this game. So I will be rolling with the Seminoles. Next we have TCU and Arizona State. Arizona State is favored, but I'm liking what I see from TCU. They've been in more control of their games. Yeah, I know North Carolina's not good, and I know SMU won't be as good as they were last year. But TCU's definitely looked like a much better team playing. So I know the rule of thumb is normally to not pick the road team. But for whatever reason, in this case, I'm going to pick the road team to win. So I'll be going with TCU. Next slate of games, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest. Georgia Tech, they're probably the highest they've been ranked in about 8 years or so. I mean, it's been a while, 8-9 years since they've been relevant in the top 20 landscape. So, congratulations to them. And then you got Wake Forest, who's kind of just been middling. I don't think I really need to go over this game. Georgia Tech's going to handle this. As long as they run the ball, they'll win this game by 20 or better. All right, USC and Illinois. So, as you know, Illinois got destroyed this past Saturday. USC beats Michigan State, but it wasn't necessarily a convincing win when your defense is still in the same activity as it was, when he first got there. I know the rule of thumb is, these teams that are playing from coast to coast, Illinois is probably, I think, in Central Time. So, obviously, this is about a 2 hours gain for USC. So, in reality, this game will be around like 10:15 their time in the morning versus like 12:15. So you would think USC would be a little bit sluggish, but I think Illinois honestly may let that loss beat them twice. And I'm going to roll USC, the road team. Notre Dame and Arkansas. Just going to roll Notre Dame. I know Arkansas is I feel like this is a game that they can definitely get their mojo back and beat a top 25 team and, just have Sam Pittman, feeling better, but I just don't think that's going to be the case. I feel like once you've blown this Memphis game, it's kind of opened up your season to not pan out as good, and you're looking more around the 5-7 territory. I think Notre Dame has just enough to get past Arkansas. I know their defense isn't good, but honestly, Arkansas's defense hasn't been as impressive to me as I thought as they could. So let me roll with Notre Dame. Utah State and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt has this game easily. Yeah, 5 years ago, we would have honestly considered Utah State winning this game, but I'm not going to act like they're going to do a 70-21 again, but I still feel like I'm confident they can win, 52-14, something like that. So Vanderbilt's got this. Ohio State and Washington play. So this game's actually going to be pretty interesting because this is, I think, Ohio State's first road trip, correct me if I'm wrong, and they're playing at Washington. So this is kind of that weird game where your top-ranked team, you're playing an unranked squad that can definitely contend. So you're looking at this game only being around a 7 to 10 point kind of win. So that's why the spread is where it's at. I'm going to just roll with Ohio State. I know I'm being very risky picking a whole lot of road teams, but that's just how this weekend seems to fall. LSU and Ole Miss. I'll be rolling Ole Miss. I feel like they've been playing much better. That second quarterback, can't really pronounce the name. I think his last name is like Chambliss, but yeah, he's doing pretty good, doing way better than the starter. LSU's offense hasn't woken up. Yeah, they did whatever to Southeastern Louisiana, but this is Ole Miss. This is a far better team than what they would have played against Saturday. I do feel like their defense can slow some things down, but honestly, Ole Miss is just looking more explosive to me. Texas A&M and Auburn, same deal with the whatchamacallit, Illinois game. They didn't get destroyed anywhere as bad as Illinois, but for Auburn, it's been those close losses and the could have, should have, that kind of deal, should have, could have, would have. That's been definitely messing this team up and preventing them from winning a lot of close games. They just mess it up in the end. And I feel like that's going to be a reoccurring theme you see from them. Even though you see that they're more explosive, they still have their same tendencies as they were going 5 to 6 wins. So I think they do lose to Texas A&M. Give me the Aggies. Next, I know they're playing at Iowa. Iowa's not an easy place to play at all. But I do start to see that Iowa's offense has somewhat been able to score, but their defense, they're not as purely dominant. They've definitely had some slippage going on. So I think Indiana's just on a roll. So I'm going to be picking the Hoosiers in that one. This game could be pretty interesting. Tennessee and Mississippi State. I'm going to go ahead and roll with Tennessee. I know their defense is pretty bad, but as long as they can kind of get the jump, about 10-point lead on Mississippi State, I think that's all they really need to be able to win this one. So I'm going to go with the Volunteers. Mississippi State, though, 4-0, pretty good to see after they went 2-10 last year, so they've already doubled their win total. And them definitely going bowl eligible to be considered good, but I don't think this would be a game closer for Mississippi State. Iowa State and Arizona. I like what I've seen from Iowa State more than I've seen from Arizona. Yes, I know Arizona's undefeated. They both did play Kansas State very closely. But I've been liking Iowa State. They had that non-con win versus Iowa. So, obviously, they can compete in conference, out of conference, doesn't matter. And they're just a little bit better. Yes, they did struggle pretty badly with Arkansas State, but I kind of figured they'd do something like that, but maybe not that close. You would think after a bye week that this team is still motivated and can get things right, and you feel like they're in the right direction. So these next two games are definitely going to be the biggest predictions of the whole video, so make sure y'all stay tuned in if you're still watching about what I'm going to say here. Oregon and Penn State. I know that I should obviously choose, the home team. You got, Penn State, they always struggle with these kind of teams. They see a high ranking in front of a power school, a school that can fund NIL, and they just fold. Michigan, Oregon, Ohio State, even some teams out of conference, they folded to Ole Miss that one time in a bowl game, and somebody else, For some reason, when it comes down to the big boys, they just cannot get this done. And technically, yes, I should pick Oregon. Now, neither one of these teams really have proven anything. Oregon, they got 1-0 in Big Ten, but it's against Northwestern, nothing impressive. Most of their teams really haven't been that good. Honestly, the best win may be their FCS win versus Montana State. Honest to God, it may be, but you look at Penn State, they haven't looked good against a group of 5 teams. And although I know that I shouldn't be rolling with this, I'm going to go that Penn State actually can pull it off and just go ahead and choose them. Hopefully they don't make me look stupid in the end. But I will be going with Penn State in this one, even though history tells me I should pick Oregon. I'm going to roll with them for once. Now, Georgia and Alabama. Alabama, they played Wisconsin, UL Monroe. They blew them out, no surprise there. But Georgia, I think their first 2 games were they struggled with some teams, but then they rose up and beat Tennessee. But honestly, probably should have lost the game. Missed kick, a couple miscues by Tennessee, just not putting the game away and allowed Georgia to stay in. So I'm looking at this game and going, well, Georgia has the win against Tennessee. They're normally used to losing to Alabama. Fun fact, they have lost 9 of the last 10 matchups versus Alabama. The only win coming, I think, back in 2022. So this is kind of the game that was projected last year to where they can change the narrative and actually beat Alabama. And even though it would make some sense to roll with Georgia, it's a home game for them. If this game is somehow Alabama still within like 7-10 points, and Georgia's just not putting it up, I feel like that's a scenario Georgia doesn't want to see because they know they'll lose. they also know that if Alabama's leading against Georgia in particular, they normally don't give those kind of games up. So I don't know how much Georgia will actually fold into pressure, but I'm going to actually roll with the Tide in this one and give them a close win. It's just something about Georgia against Alabama where you just cannot pick Georgia confidently, and you feel like you have to force yourself to do it. So until I feel like they can actually prove it against this team in particular, I don't roll with Georgia. But had Georgia been playing anybody like Ole Miss that's ranked in the SEC, Texas that's ranked pretty high. Let me think of another team. LSU, if that was a home game for them, I would probably roll Georgia. But when it just comes down to Alabama in particular, it's just they can't win this game. And I don't know. It's like they got some kind of secret info on them or something. I don't know what's going on. And then Missouri, easy win. Not going to talk about it. All right, BYU and Colorado. Colorado's defense is obviously suspect. BYU is kind of looking like a slow grind kind of team this year, where they can dominate their opponents, but you're not going to see a lot of points. You're going to see a mix of special teams, some defensive plays. That's what you're kind of giving from this team. So I do feel like they'll beat Colorado. I can see them winning by a weird 12-point, that kind of victory. So I'm going to roll with the Cougars. But I think that's our final pick. So as you can see, that is the Week 5 predictions. Let me know which games you think I'm wrong about or what I'm right about. These two games, Alabama, Georgia, Oregon, Penn State. It's actually a pretty good slate of football to be watching this weekend. But any week of college football, people will take because we know how it comes around and then it goes away. So definitely just enjoy all these games and just don't be complaining all the time. It's really not that deep. Just have fun watching it. But make sure y'all go to the Instagram. The Better Days podcast. We'll probably just tag that down below. We'll be posting some predictions on there this weekend. Try to get them out probably Tuesday night, which is the day I'm recording. Thank you for watching, though, and Better Days signing out.